Hey guys, today we're talking about adding and subtracting one-step equations. An equation is a sentence that has two quantities that are equal. Okay, so we've talked about expressions before. They only have one side of the equation. An equation has an equal sign. So this is an example of an expression, while this is an example of an equation. The missing link is that equal sign right there. Okay, so if we were looking at this, to find a solution, we would need to know that 2 plus 3 equals 5. One way that we could figure that out is by saying, okay, what number added to 3 gives me 5? We know that that number's 2. Or we can take 3 away from 5, and we know that x equals 2. So to solve equations, we use inverse operations. Okay, the inverse opposite of adding is subtracting, and the opposite of subtracting is adding. Why? Well, if I add 2 to 6 on both sides, they stay equal. If I subtract 2 on both sides, I'm back to where I started at 6. So adding and subtracting undo each other, just like if I erase this and I start over and I subtract first 2 and I get 4. If I added 2 back onto the 4, I'd be back at 6. Okay, so the inverses, they are the opposite of one another and they undo each other. Okay, so and it helps us to keep the equations balanced when whatever we do to one side, we do to the other. Okay, so let's look at some examples of solving. I need to figure out what number plus 6 equals 4. So I can just try to think of the number, but I want to prove it with math. So how can I prove it to somebody without just saying, well, I just knew it? That's the goal here. So instead, I'm going to use the inverse of positive 6, which is a negative 6. And we know that since these are opposites, we'd just be left with x on this side. Okay, and then over here, 4 minus 6 would be a negative 2. Okay, and then you can check your answer. I can plug in negative 2 plus 6, and it does equal 4, so it works. Over here, I have negative 5 equaling a number plus 8. So what I can do is I can take 8 away from this side and from this side. If I take it away from this side, I've got inverses, right? Which means I'm just left with the b. That's why I chose to use the negative 8, because I want to get rid of the positive 8. So a negative 5 with a negative 8 is a negative 13. Okay, so that's my answer. Now I can plug it back into the equation just like I did with the negative 2 and see if it works. Okay, so negative 13 plus 8 gives me a negative 5. So it works. Okay, so you try these. Go ahead and pause the video. I'll be back in just a second to show you the answers. Okay, so make sure that you have all your work shown. Remember, you needed to use inverses. So what's the opposite or the inverse of positive 6? It's a negative 6. So we're going to do that on both sides, keeping it equal. So I'm left with y on this side. Those canceled each other out. 9 minus 6 is 3. I can check it by plugging it back in. 3 plus 6 equals 9, and it works. What number plus 3 equals 1? Well, if we take 3 away from both sides, because these are inverse operations, they're opposite, I get negative 2. And if I check it, negative 2 plus 3 really does equal 1, so it works. Over here, if I take negative 3 equaling a plus 4, I want to get rid of that positive 4, so I subtract 4 on both sides. These are inverses, so they cancel out, and I'm left with a. And negative 7 is the answer. So if I plug negative 7 back in for a, negative 7 plus 4 is actually a negative 3. So it checks. Why do I want to check it? Because whatever it equals here, it should equal there. Okay, whatever I have down here as my answer should be my answer below. All right, so let's look at a problem where we have to write the equation ourselves. An angelfish can grow to be 12 inches long. If an angelfish is 8.5 inches longer than a clownfish, how long is the clownfish? So an angelfish is 8.5 inches longer than a clownfish. So the clownfish is C, and the angelfish is 8.5 inches longer than him. And it's equal to the 12 because that's as big as he can get. So 12 equals C plus 8.5. So if we wanted to solve for the clownfish, we would have to take 8.5 away from this side because it's a positive, right? And we want to do the opposite, the inverse. And so what is 12 minus 8.5? Okay, well, 12 minus 8 is left with 4. Take a half away and we're left with 3.5 equaling C. Okay, so you try this one. The highest recorded temperature in Warsaw, Missouri is 118 degrees. This is 159 degrees greater than the lowest recorded temperature there. Find the lowest recorded temperature. So this 118 degrees is 159 degrees greater than the lowest recorded temperature. So if I have the lowest recorded temperature, make sure that you have a good equation written down, okay? So I'm going to do the lowest temperature with an L, and it would be the lowest plus the 159 equaling the 118. So go ahead and try it. Solve it for me. So I'm going to go over the answer right now. It's 118. And we're going to take away 159 because that way we can come up with the lowest. So we know it's going to be a negative number, and it's going to be negative 41 degrees is the lowest. Okay, let's look at these two examples. X minus 2 equals 1, and R minus 4 equaling negative 2. Go ahead and try those, and then I'll be back in just a second to show you the answers. Okay, so the first step is to figure out what the inverse of a negative 2 is. It's a positive 2. So x equaling 3. 3 minus 2 equals 1, so we know it checks. You must show work. On this example, will you please write that down and circle it? You must show work. And circle it, okay? Add 4 on this side, which, because they're inverses, so we get a positive 2. And 2 minus 4 is negative 2, so it works. Okay, so let's look at a problem where we have to write the equation ourselves again. A pair of shoes costs $25. This is 14 less than the cost of the pair of jeans. Find the cost of the jeans. Okay, so the pair of shoes costs $25, and that equals the jeans minus 14. So let's come up with a way to solve this. We've got the total cost of the jeans, and the jeans would be both the shoes cost and 14 more. So if we add 14 to both sides, we're left with the jeans equaling $39. Okay, so you try this one. The average lifespan of a tiger is 17 years. This is 3 years less than the average lifespan of the lion. Write and solve an equation to find the average lifespan of the lion. Okay, take a second, try it yourself. I'm going to go through the answer right now. Okay, so if we have the lifespan of the tiger at 17 years, and we know that it's the lion's lifespan minus 3 years, because it's 3 years less, then we know that if we add 3 to both sides, we're left with the lifespan being 20 years. Okay? I'm going to leave you, make sure that you have this as your title. Okay? Don't forget to have that. And this is lesson 1 of this new unit. So make sure you have lesson 1 and this title. I'm going to leave you with a few more to try. Okay? Go ahead, pause the video. This is it. So I'm going to go through the answers real quick. You add 3 to both sides because they're inverses, so y would equal 7. Again, I showed my work. You're going to add 8 to both sides, and x is going to equal a negative 2. Okay, I want you to check my work. See if I did it right by plugging them back in, and we'll talk about these tomorrow in class, so make sure you have that ready. Okay, so check my work. See you next time.